time, dear students. In my previous recording in the course of literary theory and practice, I shared my opinion and my reading about literary criticism. And in this today's recording, I'm talking about literary theory, certain things that will come before us in the process. So, first of all, how we define literary theory. And I stand at my ground, that is, definitions are not goods. Good, I know, I acknowledge that thing. So, but because if I technically tell you that even definition has been defined by one person in such a way that when you define something, you must talk about at least three things. That is the nature of something, the structure of something, and the function of something. So whenever we are talking, defining things like what is, let's say, what is human? So we say it's a living creature, and who possesses knowledge and understanding, reason, common sense, and utilizes his reason and knowledge for the betterment and welfare of his fellow man. So this will be, the nature, the structure, and that function is there. So literary theory is the sum of ideas and methods we scholars, researchers use to interpret literary texts from a variety of perspectives. So you come to know by nature, literary theory is sum of ideas and methods. And the function of this is that researchers and scholars used to interpret literary texts from a variety of perspectives, not from a single or individual perspective, but from multiple perspectives. It includes the principles governing the production of literary practices. What I have already talked of this thing, that when we are considering Plato and Aristotle, so we are referring to the principles they have laid down for epic writing, comedy, tragedy, panegyric, characterization, plot, and so many other things. And it also opens up the possibilities of what literature can mean to the reader. This mean word is very important, because in one of the recording I have shared with you people this thing, that when we are talking from criticism point of view, literary criticism point of view, so the meanings are somehow fixed. They are not relational, but they are fixed. In yesterday, in the previous recording, I talked about the Tempest, that criticism looks on it in the fixities. But theory, it goes to the possibilities, not to the fixities. And to put it simply, it is a toolbox for explaining and interpreting literary texts. Now the question is the boundary line between criticism and theory, a very important and a very debated question. Even many times you will be, as a reader, I personally confused how to distinguish the two from one another. And you are also encouraged to think about it and come up with solid arguments while distinguishing the two apart. So that's why my first statement goes like this: the boundary between criticism and theory is blurred. Like, we cannot clearly demarcate that this is the boundary line, and across this boundary line is criticism, and on this side of the boundary line is theory. We cannot say this thing, so it's really confusing. But somehow we can say that criticism is more focused on aesthetics of literature. But the problem then comes that aestheticism itself is theory. That's another problem because we have aesthetic theory. However, we can say that theory emerged as advocacy movements. This is one point where I can distinguish the two. Like until 20th century, you won't find such things that literature is actually uh, causing chaos or violence or disturbance in the world. But in 20th century, a number of people, writers, scholars, they came up with the thoughts that literature is backed by certain uh, missions or agendas, or that the literary texts can be read from those multiple political perspectives, historical, economic perspectives, so or sociological perspective. In this regard, I remember Adorno and Horkheimer talked about the leading philosophers of Frankfurt School in Germany, and they emerged, strongly emerged after the end of World War II. And they were very much against the Western powers. And one book they wrote in collaboration, that is the Dialectics of Enlightenment, a very good book, specifically the chapter, uh, the culture industry. That is very important reading for students of literature. So that the innocence is no more there. The innocence is no more there. I am reminded of this, uh, that one of our very legendary professor, when he completed his PhD thesis, so he dedicated it like this. His dedication statement were like this: dedicated to my pre-Saidian innocence. And Edward Said, who is the author of Orientalism and Culture and Imperialism, covering Islam and so many other books, he gave a very different picture of literature. If you read Culture and Imperialism, so why he dedicated it to his pre-Saidian innocence? That because the legendary professor used to think that literature is something idealistic and really lovely, and people must read and enjoy and things like that. But when he read Edward Said, his innocent thoughts, they were damaged. And he used to say to us that now he laments that why he considered Wordsworth an innocent poet, and why did he consider Coleridge as an innocent poet, and why did he consider Keats and Shelley as innocent poets, and why did he consider Shakespeare a universal artist, and so on. That is, that lens got changed after reading Edward Said's uh, Orientalism and Culture and Imperialism. So, established it around the end of World War II that literature is not innocent entertainment. And Foucault is a French philosopher, and he is built upon so many common statements. Uh, very important books that he has written, uh, Discipline and Punishment, Biopolitics, and he came up with so many uh, propositions, and one of them is power relation. And Derrida, the deconstructionist, who came with the idea of decentering, like he didn't believe, he attempted to destroy the center in everything, in terms of power, in terms of education, knowledge, or whatever. But as far as I remember personally, that is Mary Wollstonecraft, the British author of the late 18th century, in her groundbreaking work of Vindication of Human Rights, had already referred to it. How she referred to it when she was writing this book. So she attacked on literature, specifically she attacked on Rousseau. Rousseau has written a fiction book, that is Emile and Sophia. And in that fiction, he is assigned roles to boys and to girls. And she was very much against this assigning prospect of roles to girls and boys. And then after that, she attacked John Milton, a very dominant literary figure of that time. She also referred to John Donne in this. And she said that in this way, literary figures are strengthening the norms of patriarchy. My point here is that actually she wanted to say that literature is not innocent entertainment, and it is literature that not only spreads patriarchy, but also strengthens it in institutions, in politics, and many other things. So that's why I referred to. And to sum up, theory pays little attention to the entertainment aspect of literature and pays more attention to the advocacy aspect of literature. That is, theorists are little concerned with how we are entertained by poetry, how we are entertained by novels, by dramas, and they are more focused on how literature is functioning in our politics, how literature is functioning in our society, how literature is functioning in our culture. So this is one distinction that I personally have from my studies, that we can distinguish the criticism and theory this way. Now I'm in a bit of a hurry, so that's why I'll be quick. Understanding and applying these theories open up new angles and perspectives from which we can study literature and formulate our criticism of literary texts. We see the big picture of literature, not that we are sitting in a concert or sitting in a theater and we are just focusing one. No, the big picture of literature, that how overall literature is working, how it impacts our society and the world, past, present, and future all. Studying theory will help us become critics ourselves. Like I have quoted an example, if a scholar or researcher is working with certain Marxist theory or theories, he might focus on how characters in a story interact based on their economic situation, and it can be elaborated into like how class system is working, how boss and servant, and how master servant and boss and subordinate, these things are coming into this discussion. And then if a scholar researches is working with post-colonial theories, he might consider the same story, but look at how characters from colonial powers, Britain and even America, treat characters from, say, Africa, India, and Caribbean. So that's what is happening with us. And sorry that I have an urgent work. So thank you very much.